It was a hot Tuesday morning when Joseph stepped out of the one-room apartment he had been sharing with his cousin in Nyanya, a bustling suburb of Abuja. He has been searching for a decent two-bedroom apartment for months, but the process was draining him physically, emotionally, and financially. Some landlords seemed to demand 2 years rent up front, a sum that was far beyond his reach as a mid-level civil servant, along with additional costs for agency and legal fees, and the inspection fees. He had visited countless houses from Gwarimpa to Kubwa, only to be met with the same response. No pay, no house. Joseph felt trapped. Abuja, the city of opportunities, seemed to have no place for him.
Joseph's story isn't a unique story. Thousands of Nigeria faces similar struggle, which brings the question, why are house rents so expensive? In 2021,
I moved back to Abuja after my organization relocated to the city. As soon as I arrived, I took a close look at my finances and quickly realized that renting a house in the areas near my office in Jabi was not feasible for me at that time. The rent prices for most of the properties in the vicinity were far beyond my budget. It made me cry out,
"Hey, Jesus Christ of Nazareth!"
The rent for standard houses in areas like Kubwa, Nyanya, Apple Resettlement, and Pape was typically around 400,000 naira to 600,000 naira for one-bedroom apartment. By 2022, however, the rent increased, ranging from 600,000 to 1 million naira in the same area. Locations like Jabi and Otako saw rents above that, with Gwarimpa, Wuye, and Jai almost becoming out of reach due to the high rent and quality of housing available. Fast forward to 2025, and the rental market has dramatically changed. While searching for a two-bedroom apartment, I found that the prices in these locations had more than doubled, with rents ranging from 1.5 million to 2 million naira for a standard two-bedroom house. In some places within Kubwa, Nyanya, Daoki, and Pape, rents were even above 2.5 million, reaching as high as 3 million naira. And these figures are just for the rent itself. On top of that, you'll still be asked to pay agency and legal fees, caution fees, and inspection fees, making the overall cost significantly higher. I eventually found an apartment when a friend of mine informed me that his neighbor was moving out. It was a stroke of luck, given how competitive and expensive the market had become. Honestly, when you look at the rent prices in Nigeria today, it is clear that a lot of people can't just afford them. The current minimum wage is 70,000 naira per month. Now, imagine someone earning that much and trying to save every single naira for an entire year. No spending on food, transportation, healthcare, or anything else. Even then, they still wouldn't have enough to pay for decent accommodation in most urban areas. That's how bad things are. To make matters worse, data for Interpoint.co shows that only about 2.4% of Nigerians earn more than 200,000 naira per month. That means the vast majority are living on much less and still expected to cover rent, feed themselves and their families, pay school fees, settle bills, and deal with emergencies. For many Nigerians, paying rent isn't just something they can handle alone. What do you think is driving this surge in rental costs? How are average Nigerians navigating the burden of housing costs? Zino, an Abuja resident, searched for a house for nearly 2 years after moving to the city for work. He finally found one when a colleague of his moved out of the apartment.
I got a job offer 2 years ago and I was asked to move to Abuja. So I knew obviously I have to get a place to stay. But then when I got here, I found it quite difficult to get the place. Houses are not even up to standards for the price of the rents. 2, the agencies and all those extras, it was too much. And then I had to just spot a friend for a while. But then I finally got a place, and a friend of mine, he called me that his neighbor is leaving. So I had to sharply just rush in and get the place. It's a very, very terrible experience looking for houses to rent in Abuja.
It seems like the best way to rent an apartment is when a friend or colleague moves out of their current place and offers it to you. However, what if you don't know anyone who is moving out? In that case, the search for a good apartment can become more challenging and time-consuming. Many people face similar challenges to Zino when searching for a home. Let's hear about Marvin's experience.
So searching for a house now has become an extreme sport. I have searched for a house for several months now and it has become very difficult even after increasing my budget several times. It has gotten to the point where you tell agents your budget and they still give you a house that doesn't befit your budget. In most cases, they'll just tell you that your budget is too low and you should increase your budget. How many times am I supposed to increase my budget before getting a house? Now, I have been forced to move in with a friend because I've been unable to get a house after 6 months of searching for a house and increasing my budget several times. And I'm beginning to wonder, are there even people that regulate the prices of houses, or are there even people that regulate how much agents charge for inspection fee and service charge? Because at this point, I'm tired.
Even when I asked Allan, an illustrator, about his experience, he sighed and said,
house rent in Abuja is not easy at all.
even this guy has been talking about the high rents in Nigeria, especially in Lagos. The challenges in Abuja's housing sector reflect the broader issues plaguing Nigerian cities as a whole. During my research, these are some of the factors I found that contributed to Nigerians' housing issues. Rapid urbanization has led to a surge in demand for housing, but supply has not kept pace. The Abuja Master Plan, developed in the 1970s, was designed to accommodate a population of 3 million people by the year 2000. However, by 2004, the city's population has surged to approximately 6 million residents, far exceeding the original projections. This rapid growth has led to a significant challenge in urban planning and infrastructure development, as the city struggles to keep pace with demands of its expanding population. Inflation and lack of effective urban planning have made things worse. Some landlords have jacked up their rent prices without actually improving the quality of their houses. You will see buildings that were constructed back in the 90s when building materials were more cheaper, but now they are being rented out as at today's prices. And the worst part is, many of them haven't even been renovated since. With housing scarcity, people are often faced to settle for whatever they can find, even if it's overpriced and poorly maintained. Also, developers face difficulties acquiring land, and when they do, the high cost of construction materials and financing makes it difficult to build affordable housing. As a result, many developers focus on high-end projects, leaving a significant gap for low and middle-income earners like myself. I've been handed these flyers more times than I can count on the road. This has contributed to a nationwide housing deficit of over 17 million units, with Abuja shouldering 10% of the burden, which is 1.7 million units. Authorities have also identified over 600 abandoned buildings, most notably in Kwarimpa, Wuse, Garki, Maitama, Asokoro, and Apo. How long are we going to continue facing housing shortages in Abuja? Have you ever wondered why there are so many uncompleted buildings in Abuja? Or why developers seem to focus on only high-end projects? The truth is, the system is broken. Informal settlements are growing. Areas like Ipape and Nyanya are filled with makeshift structures, lacking basic amenities like clean water, electricity, and proper sanitations. These settlements are often the only option for low-income earners, but they come with their own set of challenges, including insecurity and poor living conditions. Nationally, slums are a pressing concern. As of 2020, according to the World Bank and various urban planning studies, approximately 49% of Nigeria's urban population resided in slum conditions, characterized by inadequate access to improved water, sanitation, and durable housing in Abuja. While the exact numbers of slums varies by definition, there are reports indicating that around 17 slums were officially recognized in the Federal Capital Territory as of 2012. The ripple effects of these growing informal settlements is evident in issues like increased traffic congestions, as residents from satellite towns commute daily into the city center. But what if we embrace this natural way of building rather than fighting it? Could we find solutions and integrate these settlements into the urban fabrics, addressing both the needs of residents and the broader challenges of urban development? For low and middle income families, buying or renting a home in Abuja is simply unaffordable. And while the government has launched housing programs in the past, many of these initiatives have failed to reach the people who need them most. The result? A city divided, where the wealthy live in luxury, while the poor struggle to find a place to call home. Given all the housing and rent issues in Nigeria, how can we solve them? Let me share something I came across that has been around for decades. Incremental housing. What is incremental housing? Incremental housing allows homeowners to build their houses gradually, starting with a basic structure and expanding over time as their financial situation improves. It is a flexible, affordable, and sustainable model that empowers individuals to take control of their housing needs. Instead of waiting years to afford a perfect house, people can build what they can afford today: a solid foundation, a small living space, and expand it as their finances improves. This idea isn't new. It's already working. Back in the 60s, an architect named John Turner, who genuinely cared about people like us, noticed something happen in places like Peru. Families in neighborhoods were building their own homes, piece by piece. And Turner recognized it wasn't a failure. It was actually smart. He called it housing as a verb, something you do, not something you are just given. Turner's work laid the foundation for what we now refer to as incremental housing. Then architects like Alejandro Aravena in Chile took it further. He designed half houses, where families received half-built homes with essential utilities, and the order left for them to finish when they were ready. It's brilliant, and it works. As time passed, this idea evolved. In the 70s, sites and service programs emerged, where government provided people with land and essential services like water and power, then allowed them to build gradually. Today, the concept is getting even more innovative, with modular designs and local materials. And here is the important part. This approach isn't just for low-income earners. It is for anyone who wants a home that fits their life, rather than one shaped by developers' profit margins. In the US, there's a non-profit called Strong Towns that's all about promoting incremental housing. They focus on creating communities that are sustainable, financially resilient, and centered around the people. I had a chat with Edward, their chief technical advisor, and he shared some really interesting insights into how they approach incremental housing.
Sometimes we believe that our communities should follow a traditional development pattern. This is something that cities have done for thousands of years prior to what happened in the United States with the Great Depression, prior to World War II. All of our communities grew incrementally over time, where you would see building investment, private investment occur growing up and out incrementally bit by bit. So we can imagine in many of our cities that experience of seeing a small home being built. It might be described as starter home, might be a modest home, maybe just a rear yard cottage. Over time, as families grow, as needs come for space, those buildings expand out gradually over time. So when we talk about incremental development, it follows that traditional development pattern. It's the idea of incrementally one step growing bit by bit, naturally over time. And that thickens up our communities and neighborhoods. So this is a pattern we see in the traditional development pattern. This can go very quickly in communities, but it also can go slowly and methodically.
In Abuja, incremental housing could be a game changer. By providing families with affordable land, basic infrastructure, and access to financing, the government and private sector can create opportunities for people to build their dream homes, one step at a time. But here's something to think about. Would you be willing to live in an unfinished home if it meant you could own it eventually? Implementing incremental housing in Nigeria wouldn't be easy. I've thought about this a lot, and I see several challenges. One of the biggest hurdles to affordable housing in Abuja is access to land. Securing a plot is often a nightmare with high costs and complex processes that make it nearly impossible for low-income families to obtain land. Additionally, many potential housing areas lack basic infrastructure like roads, water, and electricity, which makes them unattractive for development. Financing is another major barrier. Without access to affordable loans or credit, many families cannot afford to begin building, even with incremental approach. Most banks focus on expensive mortgages, which are not sustainable for most low-income earners who need a gradual step-by-step process for construction. Cultural resistance also presents a challenge. In a society where completed houses are highly valued, the idea of living in an unfinished home may be difficult for many to accept. Lastly, there's a significant lack of awareness and understanding of incremental housing amongst both policymakers and general public. Many Nigerians view housing as a one-time project rather than a gradual process, which limits the adoption of innovative housing solutions. Which of these challenges do you think is the hardest to overcome? Is it land, infrastructure, financing, or something else? Let me know in the comment section. So how do you overcome these challenges? Incremental housing is not just about building houses. It's about creating communities. It encourages participatory planning, where residents are involved in the design and construction process. This fosters a sense of ownership and pride, leading to better maintenance and sustainability. What if you have a say in how your community is designed? Wouldn't that make you feel more invested in its success? To make incremental housing work in Abuja and in Nigeria, several steps must be taken. The first step is land reform. The government needs to streamline the land acquisition process and allocate affordable plots for incremental housing projects. Next, we invest in infrastructure. By providing basic amenities like roads, water, and electricity, we can make new housing areas more attractive and livable. Financing is also key. Microfinance institutions and cooperative schemes can provide affordable loans to families, helping them get started on their housing journey. Edward talked about how localizing finance can play a role in making incremental housing more accessible to families. It was really interesting to hear how these financial tools can help people gradually improve their homes without taking on overwhelming debt.
So in the United States, we have nationalized the financing for houses. The federal interest rates are controlled at the federal level. There's nothing we can do at a local level to impact that. But there are things we can do at a local level when we understand the business model for housing, that we can help to localize that finance for the type of development we want. So we're seeing in communities where they're going out and reinvesting property tax, the revenue generated off of a property, reinvesting that for that initial construction investment. We're seeing at a local level, working at cities, providing small grants to help fill the gap that is needed to get houses started. In South Bend, Indiana, they have a utility connection grant. That small amount of money is an expensive burden for incremental and affordable housing. But on the life of that development, the city is looking at the investment over multiple years and providing some of that corporation up front that helps to get that moving forward. We believe there's lots of things that cities can do when it comes to local finance that don't require any risk on the taxpayers. We think that there are things that cities can do to invest in the long-term vitality of their community to support housing to address this housing crisis.
Community engagement is another critical piece of the puzzle. By involving families in the planning and implementation process, we can ensure that incremental housing meets their needs and respects their cultural preferences. And finally, we need policy reforms. Updated building codes and regulations can create an enabling environment for incremental housing to thrive. What role do you think ordinary citizens can play in pushing for these changes? Although, currently, there is no specific, widely recognized national policy in Nigeria that explicitly supports incremental housing. However, some existing programs and policies indirectly support aspects of incremental housing or address some of the challenges related to land access, financing, and infrastructure development that incremental housing seeks to improve. The National Housing Policy of 2012 addresses the housing deficit by promoting affordable housing solutions, including the sites and services approach, which provides land and basic infrastructure for gradual home building. While not explicitly focused on incremental housing, it aligns its principles through community participation and gradual development. The National Urban Development Policy of 2012 supports sustainable urban growth and integration of informal settlements. While it doesn't directly endorse incremental housing, it recognizes the value of informal housing solutions, potentially benefiting incremental housing in the long run. The Federal Mortgage Bank's initiatives, such as the National Housing Fund (NHF), aim to provide affordable housing through traditional mortgage financing, with the possibility of evolving to support more flexible approaches like incremental housing in the future. Several areas in Abuja, such as Pape, Nyanya, Karu, Kubwa, Logogoma, and Akibiu, could benefit from incremental housing due to high demands for affordable homes and poor living conditions. In these areas, incremental housing can provide a sustainable and affordable solution to the city's housing crisis. We can also explore other solutions to address the challenges in Abuja's housing sector. Social housing. The government can invest in social housing projects, providing affordable homes for low and middle income earners. This has been successful in countries like Singapore and South Africa, where government partnered with private developers to create large-scale affordable housing development. Rent-to-own schemes. These schemes offer a unique way for tenants to gradually transition into home ownership. In this model, Tenants pay rent, part of which is credited towards the eventual purchase of the property. This can make home ownership more attainable for people who may not have immediate access to a large amount of capital for down payment. This solution could significantly help low-income earners secure permanent homes and help reduce rents in Abuja. Modular housing. Prefabricated homes can be built off-site and assembled quickly, reducing both construction time and costs. This approach provides an efficient and affordable way to meet the immediate housing needs of Abuja's residents. Modular homes could be used as a temporary housing solutions, while more permanent infrastructures and housing developments are completed. By implementing these solutions alongside incremental housing, we can create a more inclusive and sustainable housing market in Abuja, helping address both current and future housing demands. Joseph's struggle to find a house in Abuja is a story shared by millions of Nigerians. The housing crisis in Abuja and other Nigerian cities is a complex issue, but solutions like incremental housing offer hope. By learning from the experiences of countries like Chile and Peru, Nigeria can develop a housing model that is affordable, sustainable, and inclusive. However, this will require innovative thinking and collaboration between the government, private sectors, and the communities. We can ask ourselves this question: how many of us are tired of the housing struggles in this city? How many of us are ready to embrace new solutions like incremental housing? I believe that with the right approach, cities like Abuja can become true centers of opportunity for all. It won't be easy, but it is possible. And for people like me, who dream of having a place to call home, it's a goal worth fighting for. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I am Martin, video producer at Concrete and Community. Please join the conversation and let's work together to make this dream a reality.